Hello, everybody. Hopefully, you can hear me all right. Please feel free to use the chat if you can't hear us properly or you can't see something on the screen. We'll be around to help you out. Welcome to the 2019 Staff Development Livestream. This is an idea that we came up with a few weeks ago in an attempt to start working on nationalizing our staff development between the three locations. My name is John Gazakis. I'm one of the two presenters for tonight. My co-presenter is Sam Leiterman. Sam, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Sam Leiterman. I'm sure you'll be able to see me soon. I'm the program and instruction director for Academy. So that means that I spend my time directing program, helping staff members learn how to be good staff members, helping talk about our syllabus and develop our program. I'm happy to be with everybody tonight. I'm looking forward to this.
And my name is John Gazakis. I'm the senior patrol leader for the Washington, D.C. course this year. I've been involved with Academy for a few years, and I've had the fortune of getting to work at all three of our locations. So I'm really excited to get to talk to all of you tonight about what we're working on. So on this screen right now, you have our contact information. Feel free to text, call, or email either of us if you ever have any questions about anything. We're always going to be around to answer your questions. But to kind of start off, we're trying to do a big social media push right now. You want to tell them about that, Sam?
Yeah, so we're getting ready to go into our season where we're starting recruiting and where we're starting to try to get people interested in Academy. So we're gonna give you a hashtag to use tonight. You can follow us on social media. I've linked all of those things in the chat, and we're gonna tonight challenge you to a selfie challenge. So stay tuned for that using hashtag NYLT Academy 2019.
And to kind of kickstart things off, unfortunately, live streams aren't terribly interactive in the sense that you all kind of have to sit on the other side of the screen and watch us. But to try and make it a little more interactive for you, we're going to have a couple of surveys throughout the live stream tonight. So the first one is all about getting excited for Academy this year. So we're really curious. Why are you excited for Academy this year? So Sam's going to be posting a link in the chat to a survey where basically he just posted it. So from there, you click the link, you'll get to enter a few like buzzwords, keywords that are why you're excited for Academy this year. And we're going to take a look at the results of that. If anyone has any issues with the links and using them, please let us know. We'll get on top of that immediately because we want to make sure that everybody is able to use those. So once you guys have started filling that out and submitting your answers, we're going to see that start popping up on the screen here in the form of like a word cloud. So it'll be pretty cool. Get to see everybody's answers kind of mixing together. And again, if you have any issues with the link for some reason, let us know and we'll get on top of that and make sure that it works. So why are you excited for Academy this year, Sam?
I mean, I get excited for Academy every year, so that's not really a new thing for me. Since 2008, I've gotten to spend time. 2007, sorry, I've gotten to spend time with everybody here. And my favorite thing is that Academy always seems to be a place where ideas just fly all over the place. So everybody comes together and spends time together, and all of a sudden, we've come up with some new plan for how to improve something about the patrol method or how to teach an NYLT skill better. So I'm just looking forward to coming to hang out with all of you guys because it always makes me better when I get to hang out with people that are good presenters and leaders and teachers.
Absolutely. And we've already got a lot of responses coming in here, so this is really cool to see. I'm seeing fun. I'm seeing leadership development, becoming a better mentor. That one's popped up a couple of times now. Teaching and learning. The idea that we are staff members, we're there to teach, but we learn a lot in the process as well from each other and from the P staff. Leadership development. My amazing staff. I always love to hear that. I'm assuming that's one of our senior staff members out there.
And
Um,
I love the parts here that are about mentorship and about giving back as good as they got, because that for me is a huge piece of this. The fact that you received something from this program. I don't think we would have decided that we were going to staff if we hadn't received something, and seeing that commitment to giving back is a huge thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love seeing friendships slowly get bigger and bigger here as more and more people enter it as their kind of main word here. So that's really cool to see. It really is a great experience. Having done it at all three locations, getting to hang out with each of those staffs and befriending all of those people is absolutely a really cool experience.
Well, I
Um,
mean, John, friendship is magic, so it makes
Friendship
sense
is
it's getting
magic.
bigger. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm seeing some other cool ones pop up here. Cross course interaction. That's really cool. Exploring enthusiasm. I don't know about you, Sam, but I love enthusiasm. It's one of my
I
favorite
mean,
things.
it's one of my favorite words and things. And I like the someone put first time staffer down here. And so for those of you that are first time staffers, you might not know what you're looking forward to, or you might have that sense of enthusiasm, but also that little sense of nervousness about, what is going to come at me. And so you're probably feeling excited, but also a little uncertain. And so hopefully today helps, pump that excitement up and take that uncertainty down a little bit.
Absolutely. So I think at this point we've gotten a bunch of answers. This has been really cool to see. We're going to go back to our presentation here and kind of move forward and start covering a couple more points. If I can get that to do that.
And as John does that, you may see in the chat or like up on the screen me sort of raise my hands up and put some fingers up, or do some gesticulating things at John. At Academy, we always want to make sure that people are kept on time. And
Mm-hmm.
so one of the things I'm going to do is try to keep John on time, and he's going to do the same for me.
Yeah, Sam doing it for me is probably the more important bit here. I tend to talk a lot when I'm allowed to, so we're gonna try and keep that in check. Our golden night, and we're going to be done with this stream within an hour. So by 10 p.m. Eastern, this is gonna be over, just to respect everybody's time. So we're gonna keep on each other about making sure we're on time with these things, because we could both talk forever about all the things we're gonna be talking about tonight. So to kind of lead in, we're going to start talking about the vision and mission for Academy. So the vision and mission are pre-established for Academy. We follow them every year. It's one of the main deciding factors in how we handle things and what our program looks like each year. So we'll start off. Sam, do you want to read the vision?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So the vision of the NYLT Leadership Academy is to instill each participating staff member with the confidence, knowledge, and inspiration to deliver superior NYLT courses in every council, thereby reaching all scouting units and in turn impacting every scout. So the vision really talks about what I talked about before, which is we're trying to make each other better and make the people that are participating better, and then have that impact, have that impact on a scout that you might never meet, might be somewhere hundreds of miles away from you, but by you being a trainer is going to help you there. So John, you want to give us the mission?
Sure. So, the mission of the NYLT Leadership Academy is to provide each council with the opportunity to participate in an effective, world class youth leadership training program. The Leadership Academy staff is dedicated to infecting each participating staff member with an enthusiastic force of learning that will instill in them a growth experience lasting a lifetime. This goal will be accomplished through the establishment of a special place where learning and mutual respect are fostered within the ideals of scouting. And there's a lot of little tidbits within the mission and vision that you can probably notice looking at if you're a new staffer, your participant experience, if you're a returning staffer, also your experience staffing this course. The biggest of which at the end with the mission here is special place is a really big component of our course and the environment we create. But you also see some other things like growth experiences lasting a lifetime. We do a lot of what we call lifelong learning at Academy, where even on staff we're always learning things, and in between courses, over the year that we're not in the month of July and these programs are happening, we're always learning things. So from there, tonight we're going to give you a little bit of an overview of the program of the Leadership Academy and kind of what the underlying purposes and ideals are based on that vision and mission. Sam, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So The vision and mission are great because they give us this structure for what our program should look like. And I can tell you that structure's changed a bunch of times as we've sort of developed a program that works and that meets the needs of what we're doing here. And so John's going to give you this great overview of the specifics of what does the course look like, what does the schedule look like, and I'm mostly here to tell you kind of about the big picture. The big picture is that what we're trying to do is we're trying to be the top NYLT experience and model that top NYLT experience, right? So the progression is that you started with a unit, and that unit taught you some training. There's a bunch of names depending on if you're a venturer or whether you're in a classic scout troop. And then once you did that unit level training, you moved to NYLT and you got a better training experience, a higher level training experience. And we're the next step in terms of the pinnacle of delivering NYLT. So what we're hoping to do at Academy is, while we're teaching how to run an NYLT course, we're also modeling the sort of paragon of NYLT courses. We're trying to model what a course looks like. Just like the NYLT program models the best unit that you could have, we're trying to model the best course. And that means that we're modeling the best behaviors of a senior patrol leader. We're modeling how the adults and youth interact. We're modeling how realistic first aid should happen. So when you're working as a staff member, the core thing you need to think about is you need to think about, how am I going to set the best example for how NYLT courses can be run? Because that's a huge piece of what we do. The second piece, and I think it's just as important, is that learning at Academy is a cycle. Because what we really believe is that the best way to learn is to do a repetition of the same thing and receive feedback and incorporate that feedback. So you probably remember, though sleep deprivation may have caused some of those memories to fade, that you did a presentation and we evaluated you, and then it was like Groundhog Day. You did the whole thing over again, and that's purposeful. We're looking to run the same cycle over and over again with small tweaks, with small challenges, incorporating that feedback, but making sure that each time we get better as we go around the cycle, until hopefully we hit at the end of the week sort of the best version of ourselves for that week. We're also trying to say that cycle doesn't end when Academy ends. So you're going to go home to your NYLT, or you're going to come back to Academy as a staff member, and you're going to keep doing that cycle. So when later John talks to you about how we're going to help practice presentations, you're just doing that cycle over again. We're going to write a presentation, we're going to do some feedback, and we're going to incorporate it, and we're going to do it again. So two things you want to remember. First of all, how important it is to model that NYLT course, the best version of that you can have. And second of all, how important that feedback cycle is in order to make the sort of program run the best that it can run. So once we've kind of gotten that as the underpinning, the philosophy of what happens, what we need next is, what does it look like? What do we do every day that helps us sort of make that work? And John is going to bring that up right now and talk to us about our daily schedule.
Absolutely. So it doesn't make a lot of sense, or those ideas don't make a lot of sense without the context of what our program actually looks like. You know, how in the world can you model an NYLT course? How in the world can you have this cyclical learning process happen so effectively? And what that culminates into in terms of what our program looks like is this daily schedule that participants go through. Right? So this list of things is something that when you took the course, you can think back and remember to at least 3 days where you did these things in this exact order, and then other days where this schedule essentially happened, but maybe it was mixed up a little. So this daily schedule, you know, you wake up, you go to flags, you go to breakfast, you have the morning presentations, you eat lunch, you have your Scoutmaster forums and SPL workshops in the afternoon. You have some form of afternoon activity. We have dinner. We have a guest speaker after dinner. We do nightly presentations so that the P staff can take that content and give them tomorrow. And then we have an evening activity. And then we have some work time and some people go to bed, right? So this daily schedule is something that you can probably think about having gone through multiple times, even if you're just coming on staff for the first time this year. When you went through this as a participant, you went through this specific schedule at least 3 times, at least on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays during the program. This is exactly what our schedule looks like. And so tonight we're going to go a little bit more in depth in, so this is what the schedule looks like for participants, but what exactly does this schedule morph into when you're a staff member, right? Obviously, you know, the PMs aren't at the Scoutmaster forums and SPL workshops all the time. So, what are they doing during those times? So a little bit later, we're going to talk more specifically about PMs and kind of how this daily schedule changes with being a staff member. But it's really important to note that this schedule has been honed over many, many years of this program happening, so that we know that this is one of the most effective ways we can make that cyclical learning that Sam was talking about happen.
I gotta say, John, the thing that I remember is that what happens to the daily schedule when you become a PM is that the bedtime just gets, pushed back or removed.
There you go, right? So there are some slight modifications there, and we'll talk about the intricacies of those. And in order to talk about that, we have to talk about all of the different positions that exist within the Leadership Academy structure. So we're going to start off and talk about the youth positions. So senior patrol leader, there is one senior patrol leader per location. This year, I am the senior patrol leader for Washington, D.C. Mitchell Clokey is the senior patrol leader for the St. Louis course, and Daniel Magnuson is the senior patrol leader for L.A. So there's one senior patrol leader at each location, and we're all working together in the past couple months, really, to start making things happen. And the SPL is the youth leader that's kind of responsible for helping the staff find their vision and simultaneously help them start working towards it and get there. And working closely with the senior patrol leader, because that's a lot for one person to do, is the assistant senior patrol leaders. So each course has 2 to 3 senior patrol leaders or assistant senior patrol leaders that work closely with the SPL in order to make things happen. They're what we would consider to be the foundation that the patrol mentors, which is kind of the boots on the ground, so to speak, really need to make the course happen. So they're there to keep the course on track and help everybody succeed. And then finally, on the youth side, we have patrol mentors. So this is a position that is somewhat similar to the troop guides of NYLT, with some additions to their job to make it a little more intensive. Each patrol mentor is going to have a patrol that they work with throughout the week. So that's going to be 3 to 4 youth participants that you're working with, and it's your responsibility to mentor them, as the name implies, but also to guide them and be a role model. And so this is by far one of the most intensive jobs to perform while we're at course, which is why we're starting staff development right now. It's only April. We still have a few months until the course. So why are we talking about it right now? It's because these positions are really intensive, and we want to start development on them as soon as possible. Now, the youth do a lot of work with the program, but it's not everything. Sam, you want to tell us about kind of the other side, so to speak?
Yeah, so the other side of this coin is that there's some adults that are necessary in order to make the course run, and they have a different but not less important job than what the youth positions are doing. So first up is the course director. So the course directors for each course, they're the person who's making the whole thing run. So they've got the big picture in their head. They're recruiting the adult staff. They're making sure that each day the SPL has everything they need. They're helping the scoutmaster run the course. They're doing some administrative work where they're making sure that kind of everything that we need to have set up is in a row. They're the people that make sure that the registrations are all in order. They're the people that make sure that kind of the whole ship runs. And they have some people that help them with their jobs, but kind of the buck stops there. They're the person who's really making sure that the course sort of gets off the ground. The scoutmaster is the sort of SPL's equivalent. So the SPL and the Scoutmaster spend time together talking about the issues that the troop of the participants might be facing. They talk about how we can help the PMs do their job. So the Scoutmaster is there to sort of rally the adult troops to make the program run. So you can almost think course director is talking about administration. They've got this big picture about kind of how are we making sure that this thing happens. And the Scoutmaster is sitting there worried about the program, worried about the youth, thinking about how do I support them. The assistant scoutmasters are the people that you will see the most often because the assistant scoutmasters are a huge piece of supporting our evaluation process. Assistant scoutmasters attend presentations each day and they help the PMs think through evaluations if they need a second eye on them. They provide letters each night and they write those letters so that participating staff members can understand where their growth might be seen. they can provide sort of an alternative voice. Sometimes an participant needs sort of the adult to be the heavy shoulder leaning and making sure that they fall in line, so they can be that person. So they're kind of the jack of all trades or the Jill of all trades. They're the people that are kind of making the daily nitty gritty evaluation presentation pieces work. They also build campfires, plunge toilets, do all sorts of things that need doing. And speaking of things that need doing, the most important people in camp are the quartermasters, because the quartermasters who make sure that you're not hangry. So at each of the courses, the quartermasters spend time making food. They spend time making sure that snacks are available throughout the day. They're kind of your go-to person for the creature comforts of life. When it's 2 a.m., hopefully it's not 2 a.m., but we all know that we've been there, and you just really need something, hopefully the quartermaster has provided some snacks for you. The quartermaster has made sure that the water buckets are all filled, that the Gatorade is available. They're the people making sure that the logistics of the world are going to run. And they're incredibly important. God bless our quartermasters. They're my favorite part of the course sometimes. But talking about my favorite part of the course, I think that we should probably talk about patrol mentors, because they are absolutely the most essential part of staff, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So being that a big part of the audience of this current live stream is the patrol mentors, and that's primarily because they're the largest position by percentage on any of the courses. They easily outweigh the other youth staff, and oftentimes they also outweigh the adult staff in terms of numbers. So most of you watching tonight are patrol mentors. So our kind of training here and our start of the staff development is really going to try and cater towards your position. It's easily the most critical one on course in terms of making things happen. You're each working with a patrol, you have a lot of responsibility there, and you're the reason that a lot of things happen. So to start off, we wanted to talk a little bit about the responsibilities of the patrol mentor. So we have some basic points here. The first one, which I really want to emphasize with how we've kind of shaped our staff development this year, is prepare and practice all assigned presentations prior to arriving to course. So the assigned presentations are something we're going to talk a little bit more about towards the end. But in particular, we're really going to focus on making the presentations in advance and also practicing and incorporating feedback on those presentations in advance, so that when we get to our pre-course, those few days that we have leading up to the course, we can really, really hone in on certain skills with our time rather than spending large swaths of it just getting presentations ready. The next point is preparing all assigned activities prior to arriving to course. There's in the schedule specifically, this references afternoon and evening activities. So those are things like challenge games, team building games, the RFA presentation, the geocaching presentation, the opening campfire. So that's what's encompassed by activities, and we'll also talk later about how exactly those are assigned and what people you'll be working with. In terms of responsibilities when we're on course and you're working with a patrol, one of the main ones is to be the patrol evaluator. So it's your responsibility to track how patrol members are growing and putting in place potentially necessary supports to encourage their growth. Because if you're not there to kind of shape that environment to help suit them, then their growth is going to be somewhat limited, and that's the last thing we want to happen at our program. Being a role model. So this is a fairly standard one at any Boy Scout program, is you want to be a role model, live by the Scout Oath and Law. But that kind of extends beyond the typical scouting behavior in this case. This also includes best practices for NYLT and Academy skills. So with those presentations, with your evaluations, we want you to be putting your best foot forward so that we can provide the best example for the people we're working with. And finally, consistent communication. This is something that everyone struggles with because we all have so much going on in our lives because we're all such awesome people. But we really want to hone in on consistently communicating with, in this case, you'll be assigned an ASPL. Some of you already know who your assigned ASPL is. Some of you don't. That's perfectly fine. But you're going to be consistently communicating with them both before the course through the staff development things that we're going to talk about later on tonight, but also during the course, making sure you're going up to your ASPL and saying, this is where my patrol is right now, and these are my plans for them, and things like that. And also potentially going to them for help if you need. Now that we've talked a little bit about the responsibilities, we have our second survey here. this time, I've given you the very, very basic information about being a PM. So for those of you that are new staff members and haven't done this before, especially, but also people who are coming back, we really want to know, what questions do you have about being a PM? So Sam has posted the link in the chat for you guys to click. It's a very similar form. But we want to be able to make sure that what the training we're doing tonight is able to cater towards your questions and your concerns about being a PM, because it's such a critical role. So I'm going to pull up the results page here, similar to the first one, and we'll have a brief discussion. Survey. There we go.
We've got our first response in, and I think that it's a great one, which is, how do we practice evaluating patrol members? And that's a really good question, because practicing presentations is a little bit easier to get a handle on. You really only need yourself and maybe another person to present to, or maybe a webcam so you can record yourself. But how do you practice evaluating other people, particularly when you need another person to evaluate? We have really good news for you, which is that we have already thought of a way to practice evaluating other people. We're going to give you an opportunity to see the presentations that your fellow PMs are going to do, and then we're going to give you an opportunity to evaluate that so that you can get practice doing that.
Absolutely. And to follow up on that, we had another question. When, what, and how do we start making our presentations? And I love the enthusiasm that question offers. There's a lot to be done, right? You're going to have these assigned presentations. We want to make sure they're phenomenal. And I don't want to push your question off per se, but we have a very specific part of this live stream later tonight where we're going to talk about our specific plans for working on presentations. So hang in there, and we'll talk about that really soon. What is the best way to prepare for the course? Wow, that is
a big
substantial question. I think from my perspective is to get as in this case, we're trying to offer a lot of potential avenues for involvement for staff development before we actually get to the course. And I would say to kind of do your best to really get as involved in those as you can. Make sure that you're able to attend the group meetings that your ASPLs are going to be setting up. Make sure you're working on the assigned things you need to be working on. And doing all of that is going to be a really big chunk of best preparing yourself for the course.
I will say that a big part of this resource is going to come to you very, very soon. I'm finishing editing it tonight, so it should come to you tomorrow, Saturday at the latest. But the syllabus is going to be finalized, and we're going to make sure that sort of all the things that we learned last year are added into it, and then that'll be sent to you. So that's a top secret document. Please don't share it with other people, foreign governments, things of that nature. But that's going to be a huge way to prepare for the course. Just understanding what is going to be asked of you and what the resources are to present on, to work on evaluating, that's a huge collection of wisdom from prior courses and from people that have really thought about this really hard. So that's going to come to you soon, and that's hopefully going to help you do a lot of preparation.
Absolutely. And we have another question. Are we practicing on our own, or will we have someone we could practice with, like while video chatting? And I'm assuming this is specifically relating to presentations and things like that. This is, again, also going to be something we're talking about. But in general, I would say that we're not here to limit you in terms of what you could be doing to prepare. We're going to offer certain tools to try and give you some guidelines and make sure that there's a certain amount of preparation being done. But if you, and we'll talk about those later, but if you want to extend beyond those and, video chat someone while you're practicing a presentation or things like that, we'll always encourage doing things like that, because feedback really is a gift, and you could really grow from it. And building off on our preparing for course, we have a person who commented on how you're sort of on your own at your home course for being a troop guide. So how are we going to be working together so that we're confident with what's going on? And that's an awesome question, because I remember when I first joined staff and I was scared that it was going to be that same way, right? That I was just going to be given this role and I just had to know what was going on. And the really nice thing is that we're going to be working really hard within the ASPL groups that we've established. So there will be a set of PMs working with each ASPL from each location, where you'll kind of have a set of people to start bonding with, ask questions, really start working with, and hopefully get a lot of that preparation done, but also start feeling more comfortable with the role that you're taking on with this course.
And we're right at the halfway mark, so I think it's a good time to kind of start moving forward. But I'm going to try to do the speed round and catch the next three questions. Number one, if you have a partner presentation, how are you supposed to practice if you don't have an opportunity to be with your partner? FaceTime, Skype, Discord, all good ways to do it. Also, we'll make sure that you have time at the beginning of course, at pre-course. Will there be a syllabus of puzzle masters available at this course? Yes, there will be. We are compiling them. They might not be called puzzle masters, though. Stay tuned for new name. As a returning PM, what can I do to make this course better than last year? The fact that you're asking that question is part of it. I think one of the best things to do is to brainstorm what parts of your job you feel really good about, and then think about the parts of your job that you don't think you're as good at. Whether that's you feel like you need to get a better grip on helping a patrol adjust at the beginning of the week, whether that's you feel like your presentations still need to be tighter, right? Think about what happened last year and think about what you would have done differently and then make a plan to address those. And the last one that came in as I was talking, can you expect any changes specifically regarding your position from last year? Probably not. There are not incredibly substantial changes to what's going on with most positions. So you should be safe. You should be okay.
Awesome job, Sam. That was a real lightning round, actually. That was awesome. So to kind of continue moving forward, we're going to be talking a little bit more about what it's like to be a patrol mentor. And we're going to do this in the form of what we call a day in the life of a patrol mentor. So at the beginning of this, we established that schedule based on that cyclical learning process that all of you have been through at least 3 times and possibly more. So we're going to kind of walk through that schedule and talk about what exactly patrol mentors are doing throughout the day. And this isn't something so that when you get to course, you've already memorized all the things you're supposed to be doing. This is to try and just give you a taste and an understanding of what potentially your responsibilities look like and how all of these things take shape throughout the day. So to start off, we have wake up and flags. And one of the big things, especially earlier in the week, is to ensure that your patrol is getting up and is arriving on time. So the last thing we want is to start the day by delaying the program because we're missing patrols or individuals. So as a patrol mentor, making sure you're working closely with your patrol to make sure everyone's getting up and it arrives on time, not only for flags, but for any piece of the program. And as an individual, make sure you're arriving on time for the flags and are prepared for any relevant shenanigans you're involved with. And those shenanigans specifically are hashed out during or during our pre-course, those few days leading up to course, so that you know what you're involved with. After our flags, we have breakfast, and you're gonna notice a theme here with the meals. So I won't really restate it every time. But your job is to try to encourage kind of team development to happen during meals. So it's an opportune time to kind of, have conversations, talk about what's going on. Do those things have to be particularly relevant to the course all the time? Absolutely not. It's unreasonable to just only think about the course all the time, especially for P staff that may have just gotten there. But we want to encourage appropriate conversations and help people learn more about each other and things like that. And also during meals, you're going to have adults visiting you. You're going to have some of the senior youth staff, the SPLs and the ASPLs visiting you. So encouraging your P staff to also interact with them, because that's not exactly an experience they get to have every meal like they do getting to sit with you as the patrol mentor. After breakfast, P staff presentations, those morning presentations. This is a huge chunk of time. We're talking 3.5 hours. This is a really, really big part of the day. And there's a number of things that you're kind of involved with. Before the presentations even start, you're responsible for providing necessary supplies as pretty much as soon as possible after breakfast. So, they're going to be depending on you to get the whiteboards, the markers, the eval forms, so that that process of going through the presentations and evaluating them can actually happen. So getting them those as soon as possible so they can start preparing whiteboards, start getting their presentations ready is really important. When it comes to the presentations themselves, there's a few really key behaviors that we like to highlight. One of those is setting the example as an audience member of the presentations. When you're sitting there evaluating, especially trying to provide really quality example evaluations, it's really easy to kind of maybe not stop paying attention, but stop participating as much. And that's the last thing we want to do to a participant when they've worked really hard to put a presentation together, is not actively participate in it. So as an audience member, being attentive, participating in the presentation, things like that can be really important and are going to be really important in the development of your P staff. And then I kind of mentioned emails, but there's two components of setting an example for an eval. There's the written component, so filling out your eval form as best you can, and providing that example, but also verbal evaluations, making sure that things are done in a timely manner, make sure you're giving substantial feedback, things like that. And then towards the end of this process, you're going to want to collect their PPFs and their eval forms temporarily. And when I say temporarily, I mean for just a few hours, to kind of take note of how they did on the PPF, potential suggestions for that, how they did filling out their evaluation forms, things like that, and providing feedback to them later in the day, so that the next day, when they go through this process again, that cyclical process, they have more things they could potentially incorporate as feedback. And then finally, we're kind of giving away the new name potentially by accident, because I hadn't even thought about it. But we're kind of changing the name of Puzzle Masters to be Growth Targets, and that'll be something we get you guys a little more information on soon. But basically, growth targets are a way for you to identify what your patrol needs to be working on. So running appropriate activities or discussions or anything like that based on what you think the patrol needs to be worked on, or the patrol needs to work on, is going to be really important. Now lunch. One of the best parts of the day. You've just sat through 3.5 hours of presentations. You need some food to be able to get through the rest of the day. The only thing that's different from breakfast is you have a new talking point. They just sat through 3.5 hours of presentations. How did it go? So, combining the things we talked about with breakfast, also start talking about, how those morning presentations went. Some basic reflections in a more informal setting can provide great feedback for everybody. Moving forward into the afternoon, we have Scoutmaster forums and SPL workshops. So I mentioned earlier that you're not really going to be present for those. During this time, we have an ASPL, ASM, PM meeting. In the location of the meeting depends on which course you're at, but they happen separately from the Scoutmaster forums and SPL workshops that are going on, to kind of talk about how the day is going, how the patrols are doing, and what needs to be worked on, whether it's course-wide or on an individual patrol level. Also, it's a key opportunity for you to work with, whether it's an ASPL or an ASM that observed your patrol that morning, for the letters that we do. So several times throughout the week, you're going to have either a senior staff member or an ASM observing to write letters to your patrol that are individualized and are designed to help them improve. So you're going to be a key part of that process, and that's a pretty long process in itself, so we're not really going to talk about what that looks like necessarily tonight. But after those morning presentations happen, you're going to want to talk to the person that observed your patrol and kind of get on the same page about what those letters might be about. Also, completing the feedback on those PPFs and eval forms that you collected. The last thing we want to do is keep those for too long, to the point that it's not going to affect substantially what they do the next day. So completing your feedback on those as soon as possible and returning them as soon as possible is going to be really important. And then if you have a nightly presentation, it seems ridiculous that, this is maybe 6 to 8 hours before that presentation is happening, but now at this point in the day is the time to prepare the materials for that. You're going to be shocked at what happens before that presentation after this, in terms of how time will fly. So it's really important to make sure you're preparing those presentations and the materials you need for them at this point in the day. Moving past that, we have afternoon activities. So this is RFA, this is geocaching, this is challenge games. These are some really cool things that happen. So everybody's going to play some form of role in the afternoon activity, especially with things like challenge games and team building games, where you're going to need several PMs to run games. So be prepared to run or assist with that afternoon activity. And then if you're not doing that, this is a time to continue working on feedback for those PPFs and eval forms, and at this point finish them, and also prepare materials for your nightly presentation. And now we're approaching the end of the day. We have dinner, one of our favorite meals, because we really need food to get through this course. This is going to still be very similar to breakfast and lunch, with the key addition of they've now had things that have happened in the afternoon that this is an opportunity to informally reflect on, get their thoughts on how the day went, things that they feel they could be working on as a patrol, things like that. It's a great informal setting to work on those things. Now, after dinner, we have guest speakers on a lot of nights. And we wanted to talk again here about setting the example as an audience member. We really, really, really want all of our staff members, PMs, senior staff, adults, to all be present for the guest speaker. They're people taking time out of their usually very busy lives to come and talk to us and give us some insights on what we could be doing for the rest of our lives, kind of thing. And we want to make sure that we're respecting that time that they're taking out of their day to do that for us. So again, being attentive, being respectful, things like that. We want to set that example for the P staff to do the same. Now, the end of the day. This is the last bit. Nightly presentations. So you're going to be giving presentations that the P staff are going to take the content of and give their own version. These are really important. That's why a big part of our staff development is around getting these done and making them as great as possible. So if you're one of the presenters, giving that presentation is obviously a key part of your schedule. If you are not the presenter, what we'd like you to be doing is evaluating another presenter. So just because now they've given the presentation and maybe they don't have to give it again this year, we always love to get feedback. So making sure that you're using your time to evaluate someone else if you're not presenting is going to be really valuable to them. After our nightly presentations, we have our evening activities. So this is things like the opening campfire, the participant campfire, problem-solving panels. So those are things that you should be present for. Sometimes they're going to be things that you might help run. But for the most part, it's just something you want to be there for, be a part of, make sure that the P staff don't feel like you're too segmented and too far away from them at any given point. So you're going to be a part of that. Now, even better, more food. I love food. Cracker Barrel, same things as the other meals. This one gets a little more informal and kind of blends into the next point, which is work time. So if it is something where you're hanging out as a patrol and you're talking, then encouraging reflection on the evening and maybe talk about what they thought about the guest speaker, things like that. But if not, it might be they kind of split up and start working on things. And if that's the case, then you kind of just want to be available. We tell them that, if you need any staff members, just let us know and we'll make sure that we can get them to you, because this is a time where they're going to need the most help because they're trying to figure out their presentation that's going to take place 12 hours from now. So that's a really important point for them. And also doing, in regards to your job, taking down notes about how the day went, comments on patrol members, how the patrol is functioning, things you could be doing for them. And that is a day in the life of a patrol mentor. So in about 10 or so minutes, I just talked you through an entire day, and I'm sure that was a lot. It is a lot. It's designed to be overwhelming because there's a lot of pieces to your job, and that's why it's only April, and we wanted to give you this insight into how complicated your job is so that you have time to start digesting that information and kind of start piecing together ideas and have questions you want to ask returning staff members or newer staff members, and really start working on that earlier, because this is something we normally start working on when we get to the course and we are only a few days out, and that doesn't give you a lot of time to kind of digest the magnitude of the job you're doing for us, which is really large and really awesome.
I will say, though, I think there's two important things here. First of all, there has never been a perfect PM, and there's never been a perfect presentation, and there's never been perfect feedback. So you do not need to aim for perfection. You need to aim for the best that you can do in the amount of time that you have. So I always say pretty good feedback delivered on time is important. Really good feedback delivered 4 hours after a P staff needed it is not super important because it's not helpful to them now. So we need to do the best you can within the bounds of what you have the ability to do. And so don't feel like if you could have done one more thing to build that jetpack that you needed for your nightly presentation, but you just couldn't get there, that you failed. That happens, and it's okay. So that's sort of my first thought. My second thought is that someone mentioned, being left on your own or being scared or being worried about being a PM. And at any time during the day, and I want to stress any time, if you are feeling like you don't understand what's going to happen next, if you're feeling like you're just a little overwhelmed or there's a thing going on that you don't know what to do with, find your ASPLs, find your SPLs, find your experienced staff members. Those people are there so that you're not on your own. You don't have to do this job all by yourself. You've got a lot of people supporting you. And so make sure that you use those resources at those moments that you're feeling like, I just have so many things going on and I really just need someone to take one of them off my back for a second, or I need someone to give me the advice on how to make this happen.
Absolutely. Those are really good points. And to try and give a little bit of a lighter note to all of this, because we just went through a lot of information about being a PM, there's a lot of really fun aspects to this course, and you guys kind of highlighted them in those first answers we got in that survey at the beginning. And we wanted to kind of encourage thinking about that fun side a little more too, because it's really easy to get disheartened when there's a lot of things to work on. So we're wondering, what shenanigans are you looking forward to getting up to at hashtag NYLT Academy 2019 this year? Which, in case you couldn't tell, that's our new official hashtag for this year. Sam came up with it earlier today, and it's what we're running with. So he posted the link to the third survey. It's going to be very similar format to the other two that we've done. But what are you excited to have fun doing at course this year? What's gonna be cool? What's gonna be interesting? What's gonna be fun and goofy? Anything like that, really.
And speaking of shenanigans, while you're answering that question, if you've got a moment, now is a great time to participate in the NYLT Academy 2019 Staff Development Selfie Challenge. I'm workshopping that name. It might need to be shorter. So all you do is you take a selfie and then you post it to Facebook with hashtag NYLT Academy 2019. Show us where you're live streaming from. I'm live streaming from the floor of my bedroom. So there's a variety of places. We want to see, what you all are doing as you get ready.
We're already getting some pretty thoughtful answers here. Several Starbucks runs. Coffee fuels the world, so that's a fun thing to think about. Widgets at the opening flag ceremony / orientation trail. Widgets are one of the most fun creative outlets that I feel like this course has outside of getting to do ridiculous presentations. And it never ceases to blow me away, the creative ones that we come up with. Nice selfie, Sam.
Thank you. The first one was bad.
It never ceases to blow me away, the kind of creative ideas that our staff members come up with. To do with the opening ceremony or in that orientation trail at the beginning of the course. So I'm really looking forward to seeing those, just like I always am. A very self-aware one there.
Yeah, I gotta say, one of my favorite shenanigans was the time that we figured out that the clock reset itself at about 1:45 a.m.
Yeah.
And so we would sit there waiting for the magic clock, sleep deprived as all heck, waiting for the minute hand to go round and round and round and round. That's a good memory.
I'm excited to see the adult staff and youth staff tease each other. Maybe a few water fights if we're lucky. Gotta stay cool, develop that relationship between youth and adult staff. Absolutely. I'd love to take more group pictures as we go throughout the week. We need to take more pictures in general. It's just always one of those things, we always look back and wow, we should have taken more pictures. That would have been awesome. So that's a really good thing to think about. Having fun, bonding, making inside jokes with new friends. Absolutely. Got to be careful when we're with the participants in the gray area and stuff, but there's always some inside jokes developed. Clara Rip / Burger Challenge. Sightseeing St. Louis. Absolutely. Sightseeing at any of the locations is awesome. Final eval push, the 6 hours at the end of the week, Friday afternoon. Gotta make it
Final
happen.
Countdown time.
Hell yeah. Borrowing another egg from Jim Bob. Okay, we're looking pretty great there. So yeah, we've got a lot of great responses here.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to be excited about, it seems.
And I think I'd love to sit here and field more of these because you guys all have awesome ideas. But I think, unfortunately, we have to kind of continue moving forward to cover the last things we want to cover because we have 10 minutes left now. It's 9:49. So the main thing is talking about presentations and activities, and this is the thing that I kept pushing off from your questions earlier. So to kind of talk about that, major presentations. So these are the presentations that PMs are responsible for. There's 4 days, each in the evening or in the case of hike day in the afternoon. We have the presentation styles, we have the stages of team development, the leading edge, and problem solving and conflict resolution. And we're really excited to talk about our plans for you guys completing those presentations, practicing them, and getting feedback on them. And that's going to be in the form of Google Classroom this year. So this is something that we've been developing over the course of this past week to really make happen. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a tutorial on what that's going to look like for you and what our kind of expectations are. So here I'm a part of the 2019 NYLT Leadership Academy Washington, D.C. class in Google Classroom. And after the live stream on Saturday, when we get the other part of the staff, everybody is going to get invited to their respective Google Classroom, which is going to be based on your location. So there's one for Washington, D.C., there's one for St. Louis, and there's one for Los Angeles. And so if we look here, there's a set of classwork that's organized by presentations and activities. And you'll notice that for presentations, there's 3 separate assignments. So the first one, submit a completed PPF. The second one, upload a practice video. And the third one is completing evaluation forms. So what this process ultimately looks like is you'll get your assigned presentations, you'll work on them, and as you finish them, you'll have your PPFs done. So the first step is that you're going to submit your PPF. So this is going to be submitted so that the ASPLs can look at them and potentially give you feedback on your presentation. And there's also a blank version of the presentation plan form, the PPF, attached to the assignment. So if you need a version of that, you're good. And as an example here, I've got some documents uploaded. So this is what it would look like to complete an assignment. So here is my beautifully written presentation on buzz groups. You know, it's very legible. It's going to be a great presentation. So from here, what I'll do is I'll have uploaded this to my personal Google Drive. I'll click Get Shareable Link, turn link sharing on. Oh, messed that up. And I'll copy this link, and then when I go to submit here, I'll click Add, and then I'll click Link, and I can paste it in. So I click Add Link. It links the assignment to it, and now I can turn in my PPF. So now the ASPLs and the SPL of this location are able to look at my PPF and potentially give me feedback on it. Now, if we were to go back to the class, the second step is uploading a practice video. So once you've submitted your PPF, we want you to practice the presentation with an audience. So that could be a family member, that could be a friend. We don't really care who it is, as long as it's a person. You have an actual audience, because obviously a big part of your presentation is getting feedback from the audience. So for this assignment, you're actually going to have uploaded that video that you took of yourself giving the presentation to Google Drive. So I have one uploaded of me student teaching last semester, because I needed a video of teaching something. So from here, I'll do the same thing. I'll get a shareable link, make sure it's shared. But this time I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'll click Add here, and then I'll click Google Drive, and it'll allow me to choose a document from my Google Drive, which this video pops up pretty early on. So this is kind of an alternative way to submit the assignment. So now it's attached to the video, and I can turn that in as well, just like that. And now what'll happen is there's a classroom folder that will be shared with you, where all of these practice videos and stuff are going to be automatically uploaded by Google Classroom, so that you can complete the last step of your of the presentation. So at that point, you'll watch the your ASPL group will determine whose presentations each person is going to watch. So you're going to go and watch the video and simultaneously fill out an evaluation form for it. So you're watching the video, you're filling out the eval form just like you would at course, and then you're going to want to submit that. And this time we have I have a few evals uploaded. They're as beautifully written as that PPF was, but I'll take the opportunity to click all of them, and I'll add the 4 evaluation forms that I've written to this assignment. and now I'm able to submit this, and the ASPLs are able to look at the evaluation forms that I've written, and will be shared with the presenters as well, so that they can get the feedback. And this is what the overall process is going to look like for presentations this summer. There's an assignment for each of the potentially up to 3 presentations that you've been assigned. So see, I've now submitted these ones for the first presentation. There's some for the second and some for the third. And then you guys are going to talk within your ASPL groups about the activities that you're assigned, planning them out, and getting a materials list done to be able to submit as well. So that was a really, really quick introduction to Google Classroom. I didn't want to take up too much time doing it. This is something that we're going to be working with all of the senior staff on, making sure we all understand how it works. This is something that I personally don't have a lot of experience with, but I know that some of our ASPLs and SPLs do have experience with it from school. So we're going to be working really hard to make this work really well for us this year, and that's what the presentation process is going to look like. So now we'll shift back into kind of the last things to wrap up this live stream, I think, right, Sam?
Yeah, we got 5 minutes left, and the scout is trustworthy, so we better make this happen. And according to my computer, we got 4 minutes left, so the countdown continues.
The countdown continues.
So
a quick recap of the major activities: team building games on Sunday, opening campfire Sunday night, RFA Monday, geocaching Tuesday, and the challenge games on Thursday. Those are things that are going to be assigned to each of the ASPL groups, and you'll find out about that from your SPL and your ASPLs.
So to sort of end off, we want to put a little bit of a bug in your ear about something that we're going to ask you to do. So I'm checking Twitter right now, and I'm the only person who's posted a selfie. So follow, subscribe, post selfies. This is the recipe to success. But we're going to ask you to do marketing. The best people that can recruit people to come to Academy, to benefit from Academy, are people that have been there. You all are our best product. There's a reason we asked you back to staff, and it's because you're amazing. So the more that you can spread the word, the more that you can participate as we send out things for you to do, to recruit people from your home councils, from your areas, from things like that, the better off we are. So keep an eye out for that. No specific instructions right now, but just know that that's something we're going to ask you to do as we kind of continue here.
Absolutely. And to kind of cap it all off, trying to hear from you guys, even though the medium that of live streaming isn't really super conducive to that, we have a final survey for you. So what are the things that we can do to help you succeed this year at hashtag NYLT Academy 2019? So, we've talked about some basic staff development stuff. We've planted some seeds in a lot of ways. But what do you feel you guys need as supports from us being the senior staffs of all the locations who are, for the most part, present tonight and Saturday? So, what can we be doing on our end to help make sure that you're successful? And let me switch to the results here again.
And as we pull up those results, I'll mention, 3 things that we need to make sure that you do to make us successful. Number 1, we need you to register as a staff member. It's free, does not cost anything, but we need you to actually fill out the form so we can print your name tag with the name that you want and mail you things and, all of those things. Number 2, we need you to complete youth protection. If you've done it within the last 2 years, as long as it was the new youth protection, you're all set. If you haven't, then we need to make sure that you're doing that. So we need to make sure that happens. Number 3, you need to make sure that you're registered as a scout. And that seems obvious, but in the past, it's been a problem. So if you don't have a unit, if you're not registered somewhere, let us know and we'll work with you on that. But we need to make sure that all of our staff members are also registered scouts. So register for our program as a staff member, do youth protection training, and make sure you're registered as a scout. 3 things that we need to happen.
Absolutely. And to kind of wrap up here, we're in the last minute, and we'll go over some of the things. We have all of these answers, by the way. It's not just going to be here temporarily and then we won't have them anymore. We have these, and we're going to save them and make sure that we're working on all these points, whether or not we talk about them in the next 30 seconds or so. Constant communication is always something we're working on. In terms of a direction to go in for presentations and activities, that's going to be determined by your SPLs and your ASPLs. So they'll be a great resource for that. keep communicating. I'm definitely trying, telling us what to expect. That's a really good thing that we want to work on. Providing feedback, both us to you and you to us. We'd love to keep that two-way street going. So especially if you guys have any comments on this live stream format that we did tonight and how that went, please let us know, because this is the first time we're trying this, and we figured it'd be a really cool way to do it.
Yeah, I'll also say that if there's a thing that a month or two from now we understand that you're really confused about, if we hit early June and we just really need to model an evaluation session, we'll come back to YouTube. We can make that happen.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's definitely a platform that we'd like to come back to and try new things with, because we feel like in a lot of ways tonight has been really beneficial, hopefully for you guys, but also for us in terms of knowing what we've communicated about. And all of these are awesome notes. There are due dates for each of the assignments on Google Classroom, so when you're added, you'll be able to see the due dates. Posting schedules to the Google Classroom. Willow from LA did mention on a call I had last night with her that it could be a great way to share information as well, not just submit assignments. So that's definitely something we're going to be working on, is providing extra information through there. And
Yeah, I wonder
unfortunately,
if
it's
we
10
can get
o'clock.
kind of the basic information that we need that you might need on a daily basis up there. But yeah, as John said, it's 10 o'clock, so we're about to turn into pumpkins. So we better hit that last slide.
Yes. And this last slide is really just talking about what are we doing after the live stream today? What are we working on? What are those next steps for staff development? And these bullets make it sound really simple, but I think you all understand after what we've talked about for the past hour that it's not quite so simple. So one of them is going to be reading the syllabus. Sam hinted at it earlier that he's going to be sending out the syllabus very soon to everybody, to be able to reference. We made some changes this year that we've been collecting and making sure are all ready to go, so that's going to be coming out soon. If you haven't already, you will be receiving your presentation and activity assignments in the coming days. And if you already have received them, work on confirming with your ASPL that you have received them and you're aware of them. Scheduling first ASPL group meetings. Your ASPL will be reaching out to you about trying to schedule a time to have a group meeting. It'll be in some digital form that's up to them. So being communicative with them, like we talked about earlier, about your availability, and starting to work on your first assigned presentation. And that's what the next steps look for all of you as we start to move through our staff development, because course is only in a couple months.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So if you have any questions, I posted our contact information in the chat. Feel free to reach out to either one of us or both of us to make sure that we answer your questions. But for now, from Washington, D.C., I get to sign off from one of the Academy locations. I've been Sam Leiterman. It was so great to be here.
And from the beautiful state of Connecticut, which unfortunately is not one of our academy locations, I've been John Gazakis. I know at least I'll hang out in the chat afterwards, so the stream will be going, but we won't be here anymore. But I'll be in the chat, so if you have any questions, we'll definitely be around to answer them. The communication doesn't have to kind of stop here for tonight.
And we'll leave you with the beautiful music that plays over our live stream when we're not here. Everybody have a good night.
Have a good night, everybody.